Mozart is already displaying his superb skill at integrating music, drama, and social comedy. The maid, on the left, has sung in unison with her mistress for that particularly beautiful and gentle passage. But now, the differing vocal lines of the two women reflect clearly their social origins, as their lovers ask for forgiveness. The opera was criticized by the emperor in a famous line, "Too many notes, my dear Mozart." Compared to other contemporary work, Joseph had a point. Mozart was writing more elaborate music to achieve greater dramatic subtlety, so his response was also justified. Just as many notes as are required, sir. But even with too many notes, it was an immediate success, not just in Vienna, but in all the German lands. Touring companies took it up, and it became by far the most popular of Mozart's operas in his own time. But he didn't profit much by that. He'd had an initial payment from court funds. Admittedly, that was as much as his entire annual salary had been at Salzburg. But with no law of copyright, that was all he was going to get. Indeed, he'd have to move fast to prevent others from adapting his music. Soon after the first performance, he wrote, "I'm up to my ears in work, arranging my new opera for wind instruments. If I don't, someone else will do so and secure the profits." Which seems to have been what happened. The surviving wind arrangement, written for the popular military and street bands, is thought to be the work of some anonymous hack who took the cash. Vienna at this time had become a center of wind music. Originally most popular in Bohemia, it was imported from there by musicians coming to the imperial capital in search of a better living. Mozart wrote 2 wind serenades around the time of his Turkish opera, one of them for a street band who he thought might be useful in advertising his talent. He wrote to his father, "The 6 gentlemen who perform it are poor beggars, yet they play together very well. But the chief reason I composed it was to let the court chamberlain, who passes every day, hear something of my work." And late one night, on his name day, he was treated to it himself. The musicians stood in the middle of the yard, and just as I was about to undress, they surprised me in the most pleasant fashion imaginable with the first chord in E flat. Pieces for the street musicians might be more amusing, and the success of the abduction from the seraglio more glamorous. But the bread and butter of Mozart's freelance career remained what it always had been: music for the piano. It was as a pianist that he was best known, and he usually had 2 or 3 pupils to whom he gave daily lessons for an hour or so each. To us, a lesson a day for an amateur sounds a lot, but teaching then consisted largely of supervising what we would call practice, because the pupils weren't expected, or indeed encouraged, to practice on their own. Nor were his pupils particularly dedicated. If a young lady was feeling indisposed, Mozart would be sent away, and that meant without his fee. So he changed his system from 6 ducats for 12 lessons to a more reliable 6 ducats a month. The piano was not only his main source of income, it was also predominant in his compositions at this time. But his instrument, the forte piano, was very different from the modern piano.
There is the famous D minor concerto, which has this theme in the piano. Now, as we can see in the score, these connecting slurs are very, very clearly marked by Mozart, and they separate this from this. And in my opinion, that's what the expression is, da-dee-da-dee-da-da, which I believe is much more expressive than da-dee-da-dee-da-da, which is what one generally hears. Let's play it over here on the Steinway. I don't believe it's really possible to do this here, because if I separate those separations sound very artificial. The reason, again, that they do is that here is this large, powerful instrument that is endeavoring to carry the tone for a long time, and I'm cutting it off in the middle of its singing. I'm sure there are people who think da-dee-da-dee-da-da is more expressive than, but it's absolutely there in the score, and it really is, in my opinion, the essence of Mozart. You know, there are sketches of Mozart, and there are incomplete scores of Mozart. The Piano Concerto 537, he didn't even bother to write in the left hand. But there's never a single bar without these articulation slurs, because they are what makes the music speak. And that's what they thought in the 18th century, that music is like speech and it must be inflected properly.
Mozart's piano concertos were the occasion for his own most impressive personal appearances. Surrounded by the instruments of the contemporary orchestra, he had his chance to shine in all three roles: as composer, conductor, virtuoso. Indeed, his virtuosity as a composer was very much in evidence in the piano concertos, with more intricate developments of form and theme than had ever been heard before. And yet, as an eminently practical musician, Mozart also made some of them very adaptable. This one is performed here with about a dozen strings, oboes and horns, but at home the pianist could be accompanied by just a string quartet.